Hello everybody, this is very exciting because SpaceX are going to try and launch Starship for the 5th time, and this time, depending on how things go with the booster, they might actually try and catch it with the tower arms, which will be quite the sight to see. So, needless to say, I'm very excited. Let's see what happens. I'll tell you what, looks like a very pretty day for a launch. Very pretty. Super looking forward to this. I hope it goes. That's always the risk with rockets. It might not actually take off at all, but especially with experimental ones. But yeah, this is, if it does go, this is going to be stunning. So rather unsurprisingly, they are not going to recover the Starship. That's going to be landing off the coast, or landing sort of, you know, soft splashdown in the ocean off the coast of Australia. So it's going to go a good sort of, you know, halfway around the world, which is, you know, pretty cool. And that, with that level of distance covered, you're basically in orbit. In fact, I think they're just going to adjust their trajectory a bit so that it isn't orbit, but it will be an orbital level of energy that is transferred into the Starship. The booster, however, is going to do a boost back, and we hope, possibly, if everything is looking good, get caught by the tower. That's the bit that I mean, to be honest, the whole thing, the re-entry, last time the re-entry was stunning. I'll be fascinated to see if they've managed to fix the burn-through problems they were having on those front flaps. And I think all the flaps took a bit of a beating. But hopefully we'll get great footage of that and it re-entering, and we'll actually be able to see, have they made some progress with that or not? So they're running a little bit late in the window, but they've just said that the reason for that is because range issues, not a technical reason. They have a built-in hold at T-minus 40 seconds where they can then sort of wait if they need to, if there's range issues. At the moment, like I said, no technical problems, and the weather is 100% yay. So that's great, because weather is always a big iffy thing when it comes to rockets, especially when they're, you know, in their sort of test and early adoption phase where, you know, the sort of envelope that they're known to be able to fly in is quite narrow. Like, for example, Falcon 9 these days seems to launch in weather that they definitely wouldn't have launched in, you know, in the first year or two of its active service. Right. Anyway, propellant is loading. We're about 2/3 of the way through that now, and there's 12 minutes, 40 seconds to go. So, it's exciting. We're getting there. I just hope there's nothing wrong with the range. I hate it when things stray into the range. I mean, I understand how and why it happens, you know, human error and all of that, but still, it's frustrating for me as an amateur rocket watcher. So yeah, if there's anything wrong with the booster or they just don't feel like doing it today, they're going to divert it and do a soft splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's the backup plan. Because everything on the booster, there's like a bunch of automated checks that the booster will do itself. And then the actual flight director has to sort of press a button that says, yeah, okay, come on then, let's give it a go. Which, if you think about it, there's a lot riding on that. Because if they try to do a catch and it goes wrong, they might not be able to launch again for 6 months, probably a year. You know, it's going to be a significant setback. Whereas if they ditch into the Gulf of Mexico, the tower survives, they can have another go in a few months' time, you know, depending on what the FAA says and environmental groups and stuff like that. But hopefully they'll be all right, and, you know, we'll be able to get on with another launch. So hopefully they'll be reasonably sort of cautious with actually letting it be caught by the booster, by the tower. If they're going to do the catch, then they want it to work. That's basically how it goes, because the risk of it not working, I mean, look how complicated the stage 0, as they call it, is. It's an incredibly complicated industrial site in its own right, and having a booster come down in an uncontrolled fashion there, I imagine, will do a cataclysmic amount of damage. Even when it's basically empty of fuel, these things are still exceedingly explosive when they go wrong. T-minus 3 minutes to go, and what I find fascinating is like the scale of it is really made apparent by the way that all that sort of misty fog that's around the launch pad That actually is like, I think, just the overspill of the liquid oxygen. It's just amazing how it's so huge, it changes the environment around it. Incredible. By the way, if you want to watch this sort of thing live, I highly recommend the Everyday Astronauts YouTube channel. He does like a sort of a live stream, and he has his own cameras set up, him and his team, and it's fantastic, really first rate. Some amazing shots. Flight director is go for launch, T-minus 15 seconds. I'm going to have to put my drink down or I might spill it on my laptop.
T-minus 5.
Okay, that's the water deluge system. And ignition. Oh my goodness, it's going. It's going, right. With any luck, yeah, okay, so they haven't destroyed the launch pad on takeoff. That's the first tick in the box. And we have all engines running, which is also a very good sign. We did lose one in Flight 4, if you remember. But looks like we've got all of them this time.
30 seconds into the flight, the rumble's just starting to reach us here at launch control.
Wow. Every time I see this, it's just like, it blows my mind. It's so incredible. The engineering behind it. It's absolutely mind-blowing.
Max Q.
Now pass through the maximum aerodynamic pressure, the most stress the vehicle's going to see on the way uphill. Our next major milestone.
Wow, you can really hear the sort of crackle of the, you know, the rocket crackle that you get.
To push it away from the booster.
It's just sort of an artifact of the supersonic airflow coming out of the rocket engines.
All right, so hot staging is going to be the next thing coming up. First, we're going to see the booster's engines start to shut down. All but 3. We're going to do what's called most engines cut off instead of main engine cut off, because 3 are going to keep going.
Right, they do an interesting hot staging thing, which is something they did in the last flight as well, where they keep the booster running with 3 engines, and the main reason they do that is to keep the propellant at the bottom of the tanks as it's doing its maneuver, whereas if they turned off all the engines, that propellant would float around, and then when they tried to turn them back on again, the engines wouldn't get fuel, they'd get gas, ullage gas of one sort or another, and it wouldn't work. They'd explode. So they just keep some thrust on that booster, not too much thrust, but a bit, and then they apply extra thrust to the ship in order to pull it off. Right, so we're down to 3, we've got the hot stage. Oh, that seems like a very speedy turn on the booster.
Stage separation, hot stage.
Okay.
Separation confirmed.
Okay, they've got all 13 of the center engines on the booster lit again, so it's heading
Ship
back
under
now.
its own power, I'm seeing 6 out of 6 Raptors lit.
My goodness.
Hopefully I got a booster on the way back to me. I'm going to send it to you guys in Hawthorne.
Oh,
Yep,
man.
ship's got all its engines lit, so that's doing
I
well.
loved how the crowd,
Chamber pressure is nominal.
crowd here in Hawthorne all went ooh at that first view of the blue flames from the booster.
When you compare this to the very first flight they had, you can see the enormous advances they've made in terms of, you know, actually making this process seem fluid and, you know, under control.
And the tower are both performing automated checks to make sure we are go for the booster to return.
Oh, here we go.
to the
Right,
launch
so they're down
pad
to just
for
the
that
3
test.
center engines,
once
and
those
then
are
they should
complete,
shut
the
those
flight
off as well in a
director-
minute. On the booster I'm talking about.
Flight directors go for booster return.
Right, the boost back burn is shut down, which means now, unlike Falcon 9, it won't do a re-entry burn. It's made of steel, so they figure it can handle a little bit of heating on the on re-entry, the booster can. So it's just going to fall into the atmosphere and let the atmosphere slow it down all the way to a sort of subsonic speed where the 3 center engines, I believe, will just be the ones which slow it all the way finally down to a terminal velocity of 0.
It's going to be a really exciting morning. Again, the booster is making its way back towards now
Oh
land,
my God! They've just said there's a go for booster catch.
In the tower.
Don't you think it's a little early to decide that?
So incredible to see these views.
Oh my
you can see the
goodness.
ship on the right-hand side of your screen. All 6 Raptor engines are under full power. Once again,
you know, at some point they're going to try and catch the Starship as well with the tower. Although I'm not sure how that will work if they've already caught the booster. Presumably, if maybe that's why they need 2 towers. I don't know.
5 minutes ago.
Yeah, and the booster.
Starship on nominal trajectory.
I can confirm the command was sent.
Ah, you can see the that little circle there. I think that's the hot stage, hot venting stage. It's basically just sort of a ring with gaps in it that they have to dump because it's extra weight that they weren't planning on originally, and presumably at some point, in order to achieve 100% reusability, they'll want to not be dumping that. But for now, that's what they're doing.
On-time liftoff of Starship Flight 5. The ship has separated from the booster. The booster is there on your screen. It is making its way back to the launch site. We are going to attempt the catch using the chopsticks. We did hear the confirmation that the command was sent to the tower. We are go for catch.
And in order to...
And guys, we should just be about 30 seconds away from our landing burn. It's going to happen in 3 phases. We're going to land 13 engines, burn off all of that velocity. Oh, we can see it coming down through the pool.
Wow. So this is T-minus 6 minutes and 15 seconds. Look at this shot. Look at the glow as it re-enters. This is just insane. Oh my word.
The vehicle is moving on the left-hand.
Oh, they're relaunching. They're relighting. Yes, so they relit all 13 to begin with just to really scrub that speed off.
We're now down to 3
Oh my God.
engines.
Oh my God.
We can see those chopsticks now
Oh my God. How did they do this? How did they do this?
Booster landing burn shutdown.
How did they do this? Please tell me that fire's going to go out on its own. Because it would be a terrible shame if it blew up once it was already being caught. It's being caught. They've caught the booster. They've caught the booster. This is just the most insane thing. And it was so quick as well.
Are you kidding me?
Still a little bit of flame on the side there. I'd like that to go out, please. That'd make me feel much more comfortable about life.
Guys, I'm sorry. Like, even at this day and age, what we just saw, that looked like magic. Oh, wow.
Damn, your view must have been insane. We are still going live.
Still a little bit of flame on the side there. Can that go out, please? What is that that's burning?
For the engineering history books.
That is
This
mad.
is a live view of the Super Heavy booster as it has just
Yeah,
been
it is that, isn't it? It is a day for the engineering history books.
That it just came from. Dan, I love this. You are reflecting exactly what everybody else here in Hawthorne, except maybe a little bit more because you got to see it with your own eyes.
How was that?
We got it. I mean, like,
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. This is...
I can't even describe
I've literally never seen anything this amazing in life.
ships in orbit, but
Except maybe when my son was born. But other than that,
I am like shaking right
just
now. That was
wow.
Yeah, it. Oh, This is not, I mean,
let's check in on ship.
it's hard to believe.
Okay, the fire seems to be mostly going out now, so that's something.
All right,
I
exciting
don't know what it
news
was
there.
that
It's hard
caught
to
fire
believe
there,
that,
but you know, they got the booster back now, so they'll be able to check that. They'll be able to look it over. This is the first time they'll be able to look over one of these, you know, Starship Super Heavy Raptor engine bits and bobs after it's actually done a flight. You know, the original Starships that just did their little hops, I suppose you could say that was the same thing, but they didn't fire their engines as long. They were, you know, it's just, this is
I'm trying to catch my tears,
absolutely
just like
insane.
the
Absolutely
chopsticks caught the
insane. And
It has
I
been
am
nonstop.
without words, or at least without words that I would be happy to put out there on YouTube. There are words that are rolling around in my brain, which are, I mean, yeah.
With the booster having
this is
completed its job for
this is a
today,
whole new
we are
thing.
going
This
to
is
take a
humanity
short break.
taking
For
a
the next
giant
30
step
minutes, we'll return
forwards.
back at T plus
That's what
40
we're
minutes
seeing
while the
here.
ship
A
continues to
giant
coast
step
before re-entry.
forwards.
At that
So
point in
they're
time,
almost
temperatures
at
can
the
be as
point
high
of
as
re-entry. I imagine you're going to
26,000
start to see the
Fahrenheit,
glow
or about
in
1,400
just
degrees Celsius.
a little minute.
They're-
It's
the design
44
itself
minutes
also
and
permits for
45
rapid
seconds
reuse with
after
no
liftoff.
refurbishment between the flights. And fun fact that I think is just
And I would
incredible
expect
in terms
any
of,
minute now that sort of glow of the
scale,
atmosphere
but
to
the
start
heat
to be
shield
visible
alone
under
on the ship
the
has a
flaps, and you
total
see
mass
there.
of
And that
10.5
heat is
tons,
mainly
which is
compression.
crazy
It's not
because these
friction.
things are
It's the air being
really lightweight.
compressed. You know, like when you
They're
use
made
a
out of
bicycle
ceramic. We
pump
have
and
a
you've
couple of
been
them
pumping
here.
away for a
The one
little
that I'm
while,
holding is
and the
used
end of
on
the bicycle
flat
pump becomes
surfaces
very
as,
hot because
so
you
that
keep
way,
compressing the air.
because
So if you think
as it's
about
flat,
it, same
what
amount of
Jesse has
heat,
is kind of more
half
what
the
you see
volume.
there on
Therefore,
the side.
extra temperature.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that
And
sort of
having
principle.
these different shapes, the flat version
So
and the
yeah,
curved version,
it's
allows us to
the
cover
re-entry is
a
going to be
lot
an
more
interesting one.
surface
But to be
area of
honest,
the vehicle.
whatever happens
Again,
with the
we need to
re-entry,
protect every
they caught the
portion of it,
booster.
so even,
That's just
some of
insane.
those
So
curved surfaces,
presumably,
especially the
hopefully,
hinge area,
assuming that
if
it
you're
actually,
watching
oh, there you go,
Flight
you can
4,
see the glow now.
is really what we
Hopefully
wanna
what will
make sure that we
happen with the
protect.
booster is they
And
will
yeah,
be able
these
to
are
inspect
very,
it
very
properly
light.
and they'll
But
get it
when you
properly
put
safed and all
18,000
the
of
rest
them
of it. There'll be a whole
together, they add up
procedure
to
around how they do
10.5
that, which
tons,
is
which is
going to be an
Now, we did
interesting
mention
one.
earlier that the heat shield has been completely reworked.
Right, here we go. We have got the glow of re-entry coming in. I wonder if it's going to be daylight all the way down, because it went dark at the end last time, and honestly, I kind of didn't. I wanted to see more, so let's hope that that happens this time.
Yeah, this is such a cool
Oh,
sight to see
dear.
because you really never really have gotten to see this live before, before flight.
Before Flight 4.
Yeah, and as Kate mentioned, it's getting a little more red, as you can see there on your screen. That means that heat is building up, but that's exactly
Going
what
back
these
to that
heat
re-entry,
shield
sort of
tiles are there for, is
it
to
happens
protect
so
against
quickly,
this
but when the
plasma,
booster
this really,
re-entered,
really
the sort of
extreme
glow
heat that the
around
vehicle
the
is going to see
engines from the
for
sort of
about the next,
compression of the
10
air as it
10
was
more
sort of
minutes or so.
flying in. It was
Yeah,
just
so,
the whole
the
thing.
ship
It's just
will
amazing.
attempt
This
to
is like
light the 3
proper science
sensor
fiction, but
Raptor
it's
engine,
not fiction.
and
It's
those are the
reality.
engines that
It's
can gimbal
science
or
reality,
maneuver or
and it
point,
is
and they do that to
just
flip the ship,
unbelievable.
until the engines point down so that it can land using the Raptor's thrust in.
Right, looks like the ship's in a good
So that will
orientation, so
happen
that's
after we
always
get
handy,
through this
and it is
re-entry period.
coming in
Again,
at
now starting to see. And we also
a
might
nice
start to see
steady
the flaps
attitude.
actuate a little bit here,
It sort of basically
as the
flies in
vehicle
very much
controls
like this,
its role,
so that it gets a
during
little bit of
re-entry.
lift
That
because
was
of
one
the
of
angle, but
main
it's
learning
mostly
points
trying to
from
use its
Flight
body
3
with the
was
heat
the
shield
roll
side
control,
to
didn't work
slow
quite as well as
down.
we wanted it to. We learned that we needed
Because they're
some
just, you know, if you think about
redundancies.
it,
So we added
you'd
more
have
roll
to
control thrusters,
have
and we'll
a
see those
fully
in action
fueled
as well today,
Starship
as that
Super
was a
Heavy,
Flight
like the
3
whole
learning
stack,
that
in
worked better on
orbit,
Flight
in
4
order to take
and
all of
still
that
enabling
energy
that same
out
design today.
using the engines.
Starship has passed
That's why
through
they use
85
the air.
kilometers
That's
altitude.
why they need a
Flaps now
heat
have
shield.
control of the vehicle.
Great call out, as Kate mentioned. The flaps
I can't tell
are
if it's
controlling
getting
the
darker
attitude
or
of the
if
vehicle.
it's
And I love
actually
these views because
just
it looks so
the
calm.
extra, the light from the
Everything
plasma that
relative,
is
right?
causing the
So
camera
relative to this camera on the
exposure
ship, it looks so
to
calm and smooth,
vary.
but the vehicle is traveling extremely fast. You can see the speed on the bottom right hand.
You can still see
corner
some
of your
clouds in the
screen.
background, so
Starship
there's
is
obviously
designed to
some
land
light
on Mars,
about.
where there are no
Yeah, so it's getting to peak heating
Okay, so
now.
that was phase
You can
2
see that
that he
the
just called
speed
out,
is starting
that I
to
was mentioning.
slowly
After peak
reduce.
heating, creating is that dynamic
although the
pressure
altitude is
around
obviously
Mach
also
1,
reducing
and that
reasonably
will,
quickly at the moment. And
last
what they will
about
do
a
is they'll
minute
get to a
after
point where they'll
leaving the
try and
hypersonic area, and then we go into
arrest
subsonic,
the rate
and then,
of
of course,
descent. So it'll be
landing burn.
more or
What
less
an
the same
incredible
altitude,
view.
within a kilometre or two, for a
The
fairly
colors
large amount of
are
time,
so
but the
amazing,
speed will
and
keep
the
going
colors
down,
actually
and
also
hopefully
tell
the
you a little bit
rate
about
of
the
speed
temperature
decrease
that the vehicle is seeing
will
as well. So
increase,
I think
and
that's
we'll
pretty
end
cool
up
that we
with
get this
a
amazing
good right. Oh,
live
look,
visual.
front flap
Speaking of
footage.
live
That
visual,
front flaps were the ones that
flap,
really took the
we
punishment
have
last
more
time, so it'll be
views,
interesting
more
to see if
cameras on board
SpaceX
Starship,
have managed
as
to
Dan mentioned a few
improve
minutes
that
ago.
this time.
We are hoping that all 4 flaps will stay more intact.
Because I tell you
than they
what,
did
last
time. We
time
did make some
I
changes
was
to the
very
design in
surprised
order
that there was
to
anything
help
left
enable
Starship
this.
is
of
now
that ship by the time it got to the
experiencing
ocean.
remains on a nominal entry trajectory.
Right, it's on a nominal entry
Great
trajectory,
news
so
there
it's where
that
it should
Starship
be,
is continuing
going at
along
the speed
path
it should
that we
be.
intended it to fly.
And you can see now the altitude
Keep track
has
with
slowed
how
down a
fast
lot,
it's going
like the
and
drop in
how high
altitude.
it is above Earth, using the display that is there on the bottom right-hand side of your screen.
And guys, this is where we're really going to see
Got like
a lot
multiple
of those
feeds
improvements
everywhere, like
from Flight 4
SpaceX,
really
Everyday
coming in.
Astronauts.
Is-
Like,
you guys kind of
I
talked
just,
about, so it's called the static
it's
arrow.
incredible.
Those are
I
kind of
feel
the poke-out
privileged to
points
be
of the
alive
flaps.
whilst humanity
Those
is
get
taking
exposed to
these
some pretty
steps.
extreme heat environments, and so
Which
we
is cool
added
because,
some
you know, I missed the
additional,
birth of flight, and
basically
I missed
made it a
the
lot
steam
more
age, and I
robust
missed the
with
age of
thermal
sail,
protection there.
you know, and
we
the
learned
invention
not
of
just
riding horses. I
visuals
guess
and
that
stuff
got
like that,
invented
we
at some
had
point. But, you know,
those
all of these
missile tile tests
huge
on
milestones
Flight
I sort of
4
missed. And actually, I think this is probably the biggest of them, because this one doesn't enable humanity to get from one continent that it was on anyway to another continent it was on anyway. It actually enables life in general to leave planet Earth and go to other celestial bodies, which is like it's a step that, you know, in the history of planet Earth, it's a big step, a massive step. Hence why I get so excited about it.
Control, and so we didn't land right on target last flight. This time we're trying to really nail the target within just.
Right, they're just saying that they didn't quite end up in the right place last time because of the sort of flap burn through and everything. So this time they're going to try and really get it to exactly where it needs to be. Which, if you think about it, will be a bit of a prerequisite, because at some point they're hoping to catch the Starship with the chopsticks. They can't catch this one because it doesn't have the catch points and it's not going back to a tower that can catch it. It's going to the ocean.
As a helicopter passes by Dan, bound at
But
Starbase.
they
The
do
view on
need
your
it to be
left
very
is
precise. They need to
camera
test
position near the
getting
nose
it into a
of
very precise
of the
location,
ship,
so
looking
that they
basically
can
down toward
therefore
the flap.
have some
The view
confidence
on
that catching
the
it with a
right is
tower
looking
at some point is
perpendicular to the
possible.
flap. So we're looking
And
basically bird's eye view
going back to what I
onto
was
the
saying
flap
about the
on
altitude, you
left-hand
can now
side,
see how the
and then
altitude
a
has really
worm's
sort
eye
of
view,
stopped
from
dropping.
the side,
The speed
that
is still
view on
going
the
down,
right.
but the altitude is kind of fairly stable now. And that basically indicates that what they're essentially doing is flying the thing. You know, they're generating enough lift from the body of it and the angle that it's hitting the atmosphere that it's
Now, these
scrubbing off
views,
speed,
brought to us by
but not
Starlink.
dropping any
It's
deeper
incredible
into
that
the
we have
atmosphere, which
this
is a good thing, because the deeper you go, the higher the pressure.
In fact,
And once you
that view on
combine
the
the
left
heat of
of
re-entry with the pressure of a lower position in the atmosphere, that's when you get real damage done
so
to
great news
things.
there, hearing that future.
Yeah, the
Now,
speed
we
is
heard a
really
call
starting
out
to
there
drop now. It's
saying
still got a long
that
way to go,
engine
like
chill
a
has
long
begun.
way to go.
This is an
I think we're doing like
indication that we are
I don't
starting
know,
to flow a little
Mach
bit of
8 or
the,
something mad, Mach
super
10,
cold
like some
liquid
insane
oxygen
speed.
through,
But
the hardware, through the
it is
Raptor
dropping
engine,
now
specifically the turbo pumps,
at a fairly
to help
decent
ensure
rate.
that
Right, they've just said
Approaching maximum
pass through
entry
peak
dynamic
heating
pressure.
now, so in theory the temperature will be coming down. The problem is the temperature may be coming down, but the pressure is going up. So we're not past peak damage to the heat shield yet. We'll have to see how we go with that. Yeah, so far so good.
And we did pass through peak heating and still got really good views throughout that
This whole like
period.
Starlink
Typically,
whilst
during
you're
the highest,
re-entering thing is
heat on
amazing,
the
by the
vehicle,
way.
we
I
tend to
love
build
that.
up a lot of plasma, and
Starlink
that's
is incredible.
typically
I
when
mean,
we
Everyday
would,
Astronaut is using it to
lose,
like
you know,
get bits of
connection,
footage from,
or views
you know,
of the
Florida
vehicle,
and
but
stuff like that.
again,
He's
with
actually at his
Starlink,
home
we were able
studio,
to
I
get some
think.
live views throughout
I'm here.
that entire
I'm
process
watching
there.
this over Starlink. I'll be uploading these videos via Starlink. It's been helping with, you know, the Hurricane, like Starlink. Amazing. SpaceX, incredible. Like, it's just insane. Let's see how they do with this Starship now. There is definitely some burn through coming on this flap here. I think that is a front flap. And it seems the front flaps are the ones that really take the punishment. The speed is coming down though now, so
now the views here.
Let's see. Oh, I hope it makes it.
4 flaps.
There's definitely some gas coming through on the far side here.
Perhaps didn't catch a glimpse of the vehicle before liftoff. There are 2 flaps at the forward end and 2 flaps at the aft end. The larger camera.
I think the camera that we're looking at, the main camera, is actually on one of the front flaps. So if we lose that feed, that could be a good indication that that flap has taken some very serious punishment. I think we're past the worst of it now, actually. Yeah, I think they've done better. Way better this time. Still further efforts required, but it's definitely done better.
Atmosphere, currently about 45 kilometers above.
Which is awesome, because we also lost the feed towards the end, because the camera lens had got sort of, the only camera that was still working, the lens had got totally covered in bits of oxidized metal, and then it cracked and all that sort of thing. So
as we did on flight 4,
hopefully
perform a flip maneuver.
It'll be
as well as
Starship is at maximum entry dynamic
okay. This
pressure,
is the maximum physical pressure that is going to be experiencing.
So that is great news there. Like Dan said earlier, this is basically max Q part 2. So this is the greatest amount of,
it looks like there's something going on at the back end there, which might not be so good.
During its flight, it's coming back through.
I have a feeling when they try and light these engines, this might be the end of this ship. So we'll see. We'll see.
Heat as a evidence of that friction buildup. The atmosphere is actually.
The speed is really coming down now. You know, it's not at a speed where steel will melt anymore.
See that speed decelerating rapidly. Now the 4 flaps on the ship help steer the vehicle, and one of the main objectives for the ship
to look at anymore.
is to demonstrate controlled re-entry during this phase of flight, this re-entry phase.
It'll be getting to the point where it starts to sort of drop through the last few kilometers of altitude sort of fairly quickly. So it's sort of, once it's scrubbed off most of its speed, it starts to basically just fall. And at that point, the speed of it, the altitude comes down quickly.
Immediately, and then hopefully have what we call a soft splashdown in the water. It's probably going to feel a little bit harder on the top of the surface of the water, but it'll look pretty gentle.
And like we said earlier, we hope to have some more views, even of that phase of the flight. So fingers crossed that we can we can bring those to you.
Do we really think they've got any chance of actually relighting these engines?
Than we did last time on Flight 4.
I don't know.
Right now, Starship continuing to make its descent back to planet Earth.
At Mach 2, remains on a good trajectory.
Okay, that's handy. It's still under control. It's still, it's still flying, falling stroke flying.
It's traveling twice the speed of sound. So we will then, the next call out that we'll hear is that it is, traveling about the speed of sound. And then
1
we'll
hour
hear a call out that it
and
is,
2 minutes 55.
It is transonic, and then we will hear another call out saying that it is subsonic, meaning going slower than the speed of sound.
Starship is transonic.
There it is. So
okay. It's basically dropped below the speed of sound now.
We say transonic
19 kilometers up, 18 now, so it's going to scrub those last few kilometers of altitude off very quickly. We're basically done with the slowing down from the atmosphere, almost at terminal velocity.
Starship is in the subsonic belly flop.
All right, so now the entire vehicle is traveling slower than the speed of sound, so subsonic. The crowd here at Mission Control Hawthorne also getting excited, just like us. We're awaiting a water landing. We are going to reignite the 3 engines to perform that flip maneuver. And
will it be able to reignite those engines?
A minute and a half,
that is the question.
Away from the landing flip.
Yeah, the crowd's getting excited here as we get closer and closer to splashdown. Again, just about a minute away from the expected splashdown, so we should see a lot happening coming up here shortly. We're currently having a view of one of the flaps, and it is a little bit dark on your screen, but hopefully we'll get some good views of the ship as it makes that flip maneuver and touchdown for splashdown.
Yeah,
yeah, guys, we saw that speed drop like a rock. So we're doing a belly flip right now, or a belly flop right now. That's what's kind of, if you saw the high altitude campaign, that's the unique thing about how Starship comes back. So we've bled off pretty much all of the speed we're going to. We're essentially at terminal velocity.
Starship is at 5 kilometers altitude, remains on target.
Cool.
5 to go.
So far it's on target, that's always handy.
Burn.
Two kilometers away.
Starship is on target, approaching landing burn startup.
So keep an eye on the bottom right-hand side of your screen as well. That will be the indicator when the Raptor engines ignite, if we are unable to see that illumination ourselves.
Landing burn startup.
Oh my goodness, it didn't explode. Okay, it's done the flip, it's going vertical, look at the speed drop now. Wow, those engines do their job, don't they? And
Just behind the ship.
what do we got? I think it's in the water.
Starship has landed.
It is. It's in the water.
We have a ship in the water.
And then it exploded. Oh wow, they put a buoy out there. That's amazing.
What an incredible end to
Oh wow.
journey. A live view from a buoy that we had out at the landing zone.
An incredible view.
Wow.
Of the ship.
Oh, I don't know what to say about that. That's
Just
incredible.
not on target as they were calling out.
Gotta be honest with you, I was not expecting it to make it all the way to the water, but it did.
Not intending to recover any of the ship's hardware, so that was the best ending that we could have hoped for.
Man, I don't think we're going to be able to get a ton of extra video of the heat shield, but
That tower catch was just incredible. Cool little Mechazilla graphic there, I like that, nice. Oh, brilliant. Right, awesome. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I am speechless. I'm going to go downstairs and watch this with my girlfriend again because it's just mind blown. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, remember to leave a like and share it and subscribe so that you don't miss any future videos. I sort of cover SpaceX, I cover Tesla quite a lot. My current car, my Tesla, has got a bit of a steering problem at the moment. You'll get to find out how I resolve that. If I manage to resolve that, I'm sure I will. Power steering's not working, but yeah, that's all on my channel. And yeah, I hope to see you in my future vlog posts. Bye.